A cold billionaire found his maid dancing at 3 a.m. What happened next will haunt you forever. The mansion loomed over the quiet estate, its shadow swallowing the moonlight as if to hide the secrets within. Inside, the ticking of an antique clock echoed through the air, the sound unsettling in the stillness. At precisely 3 in the morning, a solitary figure twirled in the grand ballroom, the ornate chandeliers casting flickering light on the floor. It was Clara, the maid, and she danced as if possessed. Her arms flowed like water, each movement both beautiful and haunting. The music? There was none. The only instrument was the heartbeat of the house, and it drummed louder with every spin. Clara had always been a mystery to the staff. There was an allure about her that drew whispers, glances shared over colas in the break room. Eyes darted when she entered, an air of something unexplainable surrounded her. Her laughter was soft and sweet, but there was a weight behind it, a sadness buried deep beneath her cheerful facade. And yet, at this unholy hour, alone in the dim light, she seemed to shed it all, losing herself in an unseen melody that draped the room in shadows. But soon, the enchantment shattered. In the doorway, clad in expensive dark silk and with the authority of a cold-hearted billionaire, stood him Marcus Blackstone. He had all the wealth in the world, but his eyes were dark, void of warmth, icy like the granite walls of his mansion. He watched her swirling figure, a frown etching deeper with every spin. What was he doing here at this hour? The air shifted, tension molded into silence. Clara froze, caught between fear and defiance. "Why are you dancing?" His voice slithered through the air, low and dangerous. She held her breath, thoughts racing. Did he see her joy? Did he understand how alive she felt in that moment? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Clara swallowed hard, the lump in her throat starting to choke her. She glanced at Marcus, and in that moment, the world faded around them. The dance, the music, the silence, they all felt charged with the unsaid. Shadows danced on Marcus's face, revealing his tightly clenched jaw as he took a step closer. "Answer me," he demanded, his voice a storm, booming in the empty space of the grand room. Clara's heart thudded. This was just a reprimand for a late-night waltz. Something deeper stirred beneath the surface. Unseen, the mood spiraled into something darker. The walls seemed to close in, and Clara could feel the fear seep into her bones. What had she awakened in this house? What secrets had she stumbled upon as she danced under the watchful gaze of the cold, calculating man who owned everything? With a racing heart, she debated whether to speak the truth or weave a lie. As she opened her mouth, a breath caught between her lips. Something creaked from the shadows behind Marcus. A presence unfamiliar, unsettling loomed just out of sight. Who or what was there? Clara's mind reeled, the questions piercing through her like arrows. And as the tension coiled tighter, everyone in the house would soon learn that the night had only begun, revealing its intricate web of secrets. What happens next would change everything. Marcus's cold gaze narrowed, its intensity almost tangible. Clara's pulse raced, her instincts screamed to run, but her feet felt glued to the ground. She held her breath, caught in a web of uncertainty, as the ominous creaking grew louder behind him. "Clara," he pressed, each syllable drenched in authority. "Why are you here at this hour?" The mansion seemed to lean in, eager to hear her response. She opened her mouth, scrambling for words, but the presence lurking behind Marcus made her throat close up again. A shiver trickled down her spine. The shadows twisted and darkened, as if they were alive, and suddenly, the room was too small for the three of them, Clara, Marcus, and whatever was creeping closer. In a flicker of movement, she caught a glimpse of something slinking just outside the edge of sight. Was it just her imagination? Or was something there, lurking patiently, waiting for the right moment to strike. The air thickened, each heartbeat echoing as loudly as a drum in her ears. The silence shattered when she took a tentative step forward, trying to dismiss the dread coiling in her stomach. "I was just," Clara started, the words tumbling out in a desperate rush, "just trying to feel something." Marcus's dark expression softened for a fleeting moment, revealing a thread of confusion that slid easily back behind his layer of indifference. "Feel something? In this house?" he scoffed, disbelief pulling his lips into a tight line. But before she could respond, the shape behind him lunged into the dim light. Clara's breath hitched as she recoiled, her instincts screaming to protect herself. But Marcus just spun around, his shock visible as he confronted the darkness. Emerging from the shadows was a young man dressed in tattered clothes, his eyes wild with desperation. "Please! You have to help me!" he cried, his voice cracking, laced with panic. The sight of him sent adrenaline surging through Clara's veins. Who was this man? And what did he want from Marcus? The tension in the room thickened like fog, spiraling further into chaos. The stranger's presence shifted everything, turning Marcus's formidable aura into something brittle, ready to shatter. The billionaire's eyes darkened, flickering with an emotion that threatened to ignite. "Get out!" he thundered, an echo of authority that should have sent chills through anyone else. "This is not your place." But the man stood firm, fists clenched at his sides. "You don't understand. When the clock strikes 4, you need to be ready. They will come for you too." Clara's heart raced. Who was they? And what did the clock have to do with anything? The tension cranked up a notch, a silent dance of uncertainty and fear as the seconds inched toward the hour that would hold unknown consequences. Clara exchanged a glance with Marcus. They were in the same storm now, anchored in the eye of something colossal and dangerous. Before she could even process the weight of the claims being hurled around, the power in the room surged, causing the lights to flicker and dim. A distant rumble echoed through the estate, vibrating the walls, quaking her very core. "Get out of my way!" Marcus shouted, pushing past the intruder towards the hall. But Clara hesitated, drawn between two swirling narratives that threatened to collide violently. "Wait!" she shouted, the words escaping on instinct. "Who are you? What really happens at 4? His eyes held hers for a fleeting moment, like a lifeline thrown into turbulent waters. "You need to remember," he gasped, voice strained. "The past doesn't stay buried. The clock is betrayed by time." Suddenly, the clock in the corner struck 3, the sound reverberating ominously, marking their moments as they teetered on the edge. What awaited them in the final hour? Clara felt a chill dance across her skin as the shadows deepened, swirling in a ghastly embrace of unspeakable calamity. Time was running out, and their sanctuary was slipping away fast. With that line hanging in the air, the mansion breathed heavy around them, threatening to unveil secrets that had been hidden for far too long. Clara steeled herself for what came next because they were about to find out that some shadows never really go away. What lay in the darkness awaiting them? The clock's chime echoed into the stillness, drowning Clara in an ocean of dread. Her pulse quickened, and she could feel each erratic beat loud and deafening in her ears. Marcus, already on edge, fell silent. His gaze darted from the stranger to the clock, a mix of confusion and anger boiling just beneath the surface. "For what do you mean?" Clara asked, her voice a mere whisper, barely carrying over the tension that hung in the air. She stepped closer, her heart hammering against her ribcage. The young man inhaled sharply, still watching Marcus with an intensity that pierced through the fog of confrontation. "They won't stop. Not until they claim what's theirs." His desperation was a tangible force, pulling Clara's attention in like a magnet. "What does that even mean?" Marcus snapped, frustration flaring. "Who are you? What do you know?" Yet his own confidence seemed shaky, like the very foundations of the mansion were crumbling beneath them. "I'm the stranger," hesitated, his voice trembling. "I'm just like you. A victim of the clock. I thought it was finally over, but it's back. You can't ignore it, you." Before he could finish, the lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into darkness for a heartbeat. When they returned, Shadows danced menacingly, swirling around each figure, painting them in deep contrasts of light and dark. The distant rumble echoed again, more pronounced this time, resonating through the walls like some ancient beast stirring in its slumber. Clara's breath caught with a low growl. It felt as if the mansion were alive with secrets, exhaling its secrets to sink its teeth into them. Enough! Marcus bellowed. The strength of his voice gave Clara a momentary comfort, but did little to alleviate the chaos spiraling around them. You're going to tell me what you know or get out right now! He took a step closer, the air suffused with a heavy electricity. The stranger's eyes widened in terror. You won't understand until they show themselves. The clock doesn't lie. He pressed a hand against his chest, as if trying to calm his racing heart. You have a choice to make. Don't let them in. What the hell is happening? Clara blurted, frustration pushing her forward. What are we waiting for? We've got less than an hour. Marcus's hardened gaze softened for a flicker of a heartbeat, revealing something raw beneath his typically unyielding facade. We need to know what we're dealing with, he murmured, almost to himself. The stranger nodded slowly, his face contorting in frustration. The legends, they were true. They're drawn to regrets, to broken promises. They feed on fear. The moment that clock strikes, everything changes. A shiver of icy dread cascaded down Clara's spine as she caught a glimpse of movements outside the mansion's tall windows. Wisps of shadow, dancing against the glass like phantoms, drew her attention. They weren't just shadows. They were forms shifting, clawing to be seen. Something was coming. Marcus, she whispered, her voice trembling. Panic clawed at her throat as her instincts screamed to flee. We have to get out of here. But before Marcus could respond, the clock chimed again, its resonating tone sharp enough to pierce through the tumult. The sound twisted inside her, reverberating through her very bones. And then, just like that, everything changed. The air grew heavy and thick, filling with an otherworldly presence. Cold gusts spilled into the room, freezing the edges of her vision. It's time! The man screamed, backing away. They're coming! Clara felt the room tremble. Fear gripped her heart, tightening its cruel hold. What lay beyond the door? What truly waited for them at 4? As the lights flickered once more, revealing the grotesque shapes clawing at the edges of the darkness, Clara knew one undeniable truth: they had run out of time. Would they find a way to escape? Or were they meant to face the terror clawing at their sanity? The answer loomed as heavily as the encroaching darkness, and she couldn't shake the sense that the horror was more than just shadows. It was alive and it was hungry. The sound of the clock cut sharply through the thick air, a chilling reminder of the impending doom wrapping itself around them. Clara felt her breath hitch, each inhale becoming a struggle against the growing weight of fear in her chest. She glanced at Marcus, whose eyes were wide, brimming with a mixture of resolve and absolute terror. The stranger at the center of it all seemed to shrink back, almost absorbed by the shadows that twisted and writhed at the fringes of the room. Do you see them? The stranger's voice was barely more than a whisper. They're hungry! Clara blinked, focusing her eyes on the shifting forms just beyond the glass. At first, it looked like a simple trick of the light, but then she noticed them, many of them cloaked in shades darker than night, their outlines jagged and restless. The air around them crackled, filled with an energy that sent prickles down her arms. What do we do?" she asked, her voice a trembling thread of hope laced with panic. "Survive!" Marcus shouted, snapping back to reality. He clenched his fists, grounding himself. "We need to find a way to keep them out. We can't let them in." "What's the secret?" The stranger hesitated, his face contorting with understanding. "The clock, it's a gateway. You have to break the cycle. Face your regrets, confront what haunts you, only then can you close it." Clara's mind raced, flooded with a flood of memories she buried deep. Moments of regret flashed before her eyes, lost opportunities, broken promises, and paths not taken. Tears stung her eyes. Could she really confront all that pain? Now is not the time for inner reflections. Marcus spat, desperation pushing him forward. "How do we do this? Do we need to?" The clock chimed again, louder and more insistent this time. A deep, resonating pulse filled the room, and the temperature dropped even further. Shadowy tendrils reached for them, writhing like serpents, their whispers a cacophony of indecipherable fears. "Hold on!" Clara suddenly screamed as she felt a chill skitter across her skin. "We can't let them touch us!" She grabbed Marcus' arm, fear clawing at her insides. The stranger moved back, almost pressed against the wall, wild-eyed. "You don't understand. They're drawn to more than just fear. They feed on your deepest hurts. You have to confront it, you have to call their names." "Call their names?" Marcus repeated incredulously, shaking his head. "You've lost it. This is insane." But Clara felt a tug of urgency and need to fight back, to not let whatever was stalking them take control. "We have to try, Marcus. If we don't, they'll take us down with them." "Fine," Marcus growled, stepping closer to her. "What do we confront? What do we say?" The clock chimed ominously, its booming echoes reverberating in tandem with the shadows pressing against the walls. Clara closed her eyes, taking a moment to focus. The memories surged within her, the ones she thought she could outrun. Pain, loss, dreams shattered. She felt the weight of them harden in her heart, becoming solid. "Mom," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm sorry!" His gaze snapped to hers. "What are you doing?" "They want our pain. I wouldn't let them have it without a fight." The shadows paused, flickering unsettlingly, as if acknowledging her words. Then Marcus joined in, desperation igniting his courage. "Jason, I regret turning you away. I was too proud to admit my fault." Each utterance sent shivers dancing across the room, manifesting as visible tremors through the oppressive air. The clocks chimed heavily, thrumming amid Clara's racing thoughts. The wind howled through the windows, the cacophony merging into a din of terrifying anticipation. A sudden scream fell from the stranger, his face ghostly pale as he too recalled his haunted past. Each confession sounded like an incantation, wrenching echoes from the depths of their souls. Yet Clara couldn't shake the sensation that with every realization, the shadows loomed closer, hungry and watching. The air vibrated with tension, turning electric as the clock struck again. "Don't stop. Keep going," Clara urged, feeling heat build inside her as if battling against an internal enemy. More memories surged through her as the clock's hands crept into the final moments of their countdown. The fabric of reality itself seemed to unravel with each cry of regret. And as the last chime echoed through the darkened mansion, Clara felt a bone-chilling echo deep in her bones. What if it was already too late? What if facing those shadows revealed not only their fears but unleashed their darkest selves? In that fear-laden silence, a figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette that matched the shadows now swirling around them. A jolt of panic surged through her. Whatever lurked beyond that figure was waiting for its moment. Would they be ready to confront it, or would they finally be consumed? The figure stepped closer, features obscured, but a sense of familiarity seeped through the darkness. Clara's stomach churned. Could it be? A nauseous recognition washed over her, mingling fear with dread. The shadows twitched, as if they sensed her turmoil. "Clara," the silhouette whispered, its voice reverberating in her mind. Those familiar syllables punched her in the gut like a cruel joke. It couldn't be. Not now. "Get back!" Marcus shouted, positioning himself protectively in front of her. His bravado flickered like a flame in the wind. Clara could see the rising fear in his eyes matching her own. "Who are you?" Clara croaked, her throat dry and constricted. Sweat broke on her brow as a creeping chill began to envelop her. "What do you want? Do you really not know?" The figure's voice shifted from familiar to eerie, the edges of its tone sharpening with a malicious delight. "You invited me here." "No." She shook her head violently. "You're not real. You can't be. You died." The figure stepped fully into the dim light streaming from the stained glass window, revealing a gaunt face framed by dark hair, hollow eyes glimmering with a sinister glow. "Surprise, Clara. I've come to play." "I don't want to play." Clara's heart pounded. The shadows around them surged forward with a hungry, violent determination. They lashed out in tendrils, reaching for her, for Marcus, for the stranger still trembling against the wall. Confront it, the stranger urged, his voice cracking like glass. Face what you've buried. In a moment of clarity, drowned in a tumult of memories and emotions, she realized it wasn't just the regrets they had to confront. It was the people they loved and lost, those they had wronged and lost along the way. But how could she confront something that seemed so buried, so festering? Clara, please! Marcus's voice broke through the terror. I can't lose you now. I know, she screamed, her voice torn between anger and anguish. But if this is true, then what's the point of this? You're not real! But even as she shouted, the shadows surged, filling the room with a consuming darkness. You call us not real? The figure laughed coldly, a sound that reverberated in Clara's bones. What better way to deceive than to hide behind your own weakness? Say its name! Urged the stranger, catching Clara's eye, his voice urgent. You need to own it. Clara hesitated, words lodged in her throat like daggers. But she felt a spark, a flicker of ferocity igniting within her. Emily! She yelled, forcing the name out into the room, a name she had hidden away, too ashamed to speak for years. I felt your loss like fire. I'm here to face it. As if obeying a command, the shadows stilled, rearing back as if struck. The figure's cruel smile faltered, face impassive. And you? Clara drew breath, slicing through the silence like a knife. I'm not afraid of you. Marcus stepped forward, an ally now solidified, echoing her resolve. Jason! You were my brother! I carried the weight of your absence. It's time to let go. As their words hung in the icy air like heavy chains, the shadows pulsated and writhed violently, swarming around the towering figure. The walls quaked, as if ready to split apart under the weight of truths long suppressed. Clara's heart raced as another name formed on her lips, a confession that felt both liberating and terrifying. Would this really work? Then the room convulsed. The energy shifted, pulsated, and in that moment, the shadows suddenly retreated, gathering toward the figure like a tide retreating from the shore. But then, a quaking silence filled the vast space, heavier than the weight of their confessions, leading Clara to wonder what would happen if she let go of it all. If the truth released not their nightmares but something even worse? Their breaths mingled in the oppressive quiet as they waited, piercing through the darkness. And then, the clock echoed once more, its chimes deafening, reverberating like a countdown that no one wanted to hear. What else might they have to reveal before it all came crashing down? The air crackled as the silence deepened, a heavy blanket that smothered their hearts. Clara's pulse roared in her ears, drowning out the remnants of the clock's haunting chimes. Shadows ebbed and flowed around them, as if waiting for the next move. Her throat felt tight, a mix of fear and defiance swirling together, fueling her slow resolution. Emily, Jason, she murmured, feeling the tremor in her voice. She had opened the floodgates, but now uncertainty ran wild. Would the truth set them free or trap them deeper in this living nightmare? Clara, we need to keep going, Marcus urged, uncertainty clouding his eyes. They have power as long as we stand here hesitating. The figure shimmered in the flickering light, a storm of shadows coiling around its skeletal form. You think you've freed yourselves? Nostalgia is a beautiful cage, it taunted, a sinister smile stretching across its face. I am your memories, your fears, and your guilt. And I'm not going anywhere. You're wrong! Clara shouted, the conviction rising in her gut like bile. You are not my past. You are just a twisted reflection of my regrets. A gasp escaped the stranger behind them, but Clara didn't turn. She felt stronger now, the darkness writhing in response to her fierce declaration. It was almost as if the shadows sensed the tide turning, and they recoiled slightly, leaving more room in the room, perhaps giving her a chance to breathe, to choose. What do you think you can do? The figure hissed. You think confronting me will end your suffering? You will always bear your scars. I'll bear them, Clara fired back, but I won't let you control me. I carry their memory, not as chains but as a part of who I am. With each word, a light flickered somewhere deep inside her. The corners of the room dimmed and brightened, as if shifting between worlds. Marcus's presence solidified beside her, holding steadfast like a lighthouse against the storm. Together, Clara. We do this together. His voice surged with energy, sparking courage through her veins. Emily. Jason. I mourn you, but I refuse to let your absence imprison me. Clara's resolve solidified into a crystal-clear truth. The figure's visage twisted, the haunting smile flashing into anger. You think your beautiful speeches will save you? You think they care? I know they do. She screamed, feeling the strength of memory push against the suffocating darkness. I carry them with me, that is where they live. The ground quaked beneath them, and the shadows surged wildly, swirling like a vortex. The figure faltered, the shadows pulling it apart, disconnecting piece by piece. Clara fought against the sweeping chaos, letting rage and conviction pulse through her. I won't hide anymore. And as the last of the shadows recoiled from the figure, she felt her heart slow, a thrilling tension charging the air. The spectre howled in agony, and Clara had the overwhelming sensation that something was about to shift. No! The figure screamed, as the darkness spiraled upward, releasing its grasp. Suddenly, a blast of light burst forth, illuminating every corner of the oppressive darkness. Faces flickered into existence in the brilliant glow. Emily and Jason stood together, their expressions tender but resolute. Let us go, Clara, Emily whispered, her voice gentle like a summer breeze, yet strong as iron. She is waiting, Jason added, and with that, they began to fade, drawn into the light. What does that mean? Clara cried, fear rippling through her chest, heavy like lead. The shadows thrashed around the ethereal figures, desperate to reclaim them, but the light only grew brighter. Clara! Choose! Marcus shouted, grasping her hand, anchoring her to the moment. You have to choose. Clara's breath caught, the depth of their connection reaching an untold height. She felt the warmth of love and loss washing over her, a bittersweet truth emerging from the depths of her heart. In that electrifying moment, Clara faced the swirling chaos ahead, a choice hovering in the air. Would she let go completely, everything that bound her? The light pulsed shadows retreating, and everything froze, the air thick with unspoken possibilities, as her answer hung on the brink of revelation. What is it you truly want? The shadows hissed, their energy swirling frantically, plotting their return. What nameless fears haunt you still? The air was electric as Clara stood at the precipice of choice. The flickering light dimmed momentarily, casting a sudden chill that pierced through her skin. She could feel Marcus's grip tighten, his breath itch in his throat, mirroring her own racing pulse. Everything felt suspended, frozen in a moment of collective anxiety. What do you want, Clara? The shadows rasped, their voices a cacophony, like nails on a chalkboard. Do you want to forget? To rage against the void that took them? No! She shouted, her voice ringing with clarity. I want to remember. I want to live. But as soon as she spoke, the light flickered again, and the shadows recoiled, as if her words had stung them. They twisted and morphed, growing grotesque in their fury. The room shook, dust and debris swirling around them like flurries of a sudden storm. Clara's heart raced. Was this her moment to break free, or was it just another layer of darkness threatening to engulf her? She closed her eyes, focusing on the warmth of memories. Emily's laugh like a soft melody, Jason's unwavering support. They felt alive within her, a flicker of hope against the fear that clawed at her insides. Clara! Marcus yelled, urgency steeping his voice. Look! She opened her eyes to see a small doorway forming at the edge of the light, a pathway unraveling amongst the chaos. Her instincts screamed for her to run toward it, to escape the tension strangling the room, and yet her heart ached with the weight of the past. Don't you see? You'll only find agony waiting for you. The figure screeched. Its form twisted violently as if fighting against an unseen force. Clara took a step forward, driven by raw emotion. No! You are a manifestation of my pain, but you do not define me. I am more than grief and fear. With every step, the light brightened, revealing the shape of the doorway flanked by swirling shadows, each one seeming to whisper her name, coaxing her back into the past. They were almost human now, faces she recognized but wished to forget, friends lost, moments stolen. It's all too real, too painful. Clara? Marcus shouted again, his voice breaking through the din. You need to trust yourself. Trust in what you've created. Clara faltered, caught between the dichotomy of light and darkness. The memories flickered like fading stars, battling against the clouds threatening to swallow them whole. She drew upon her strength, her heart swelling with invocation, grounding herself. Emily, she whispered, her voice steadying. Jason, you are with me always. I will carry your love into the light, not the shadows. With a determination she hadn't known resided within her, Clara lunged for the doorway. As she crossed the threshold, a deafening howl of rage erupted behind her. The figure collapsed under the weight of its own fury, shadows collapsing like a fallen house of cards, scattering into oblivion. She felt Marcus at her side, their hands still intertwined as they bounded through the doorway, rushing toward the promise of freedom. The moment they passed, a brilliant surge of light swallowed them whole, and although the cacophony of darkness faded, Clara felt the shudder of despair ripple through her body one last time. The world around them shifted, colors blooming into existence. She gasped, the air cooler, fresher, almost electric. But something hung heavy in her chest, questions clawing to surface. Where are we? Marcus whispered, eyes darting around, scanning this new dimension. Clara turned to him, confusion swirling. I don't know, but it feels familiar? Suddenly, a soft, echoing voice broke through the silence, stirring the air with a haunting resonance. You left something behind, Clara. The journey isn't finished. Not yet. A chill cascaded down her spine as Clara's heart began to race again. What had she forsaken? It was just the beginning of her confrontation, and shadows loomed still. They weren't gone. They would be back. What awaited her in this new world? Could she truly escape her nightmares? Or was the real battle just beginning? Clara took a tentative step forward, her breath hitching as the soft voice echoed in her mind. The landscapes around her shifted, colors deepening into vivid hues, shadows twisting in strange patterns. It felt like stepping into a painting, one where every stroke pulsed with an energy that throbbed against her skin. Do you see it? Marcus murmured, his eyes wide. It's like a world built from dreams or nightmares. She searched the horizon, confusion creeping back. Everything shimmered with potential, but beneath that beauty lurked an unsettling unease. Clara clenched her fists, reminding herself that she had fought the shadows before. Suddenly, the echoing voice returned, more insistent this time. Clara, remember what you have lost. The phrase struck her like a lightning bolt. Memories, flickers of laughter, stolen glances, and bursts of joy tumbled through her mind, but so did the dark reminders of loss. She had forged some sort of clarity, yet the shadows wouldn't let her go without reminding her of the pain that came with love. You can't hide from them forever. The voice taunted, its tone dripping with malice. Marcus stepped closer, protective. Don't let it in, Clara. We've come too far. Just then, shadows began to creep back into view, this time blending with the vivid colors around them. They morphed, echoing faces of those she had lost, twisting into agonized expressions that clawed at her heart. Clara, you will never forget. They howled in unison, and the ground shook beneath her feet. Please! Clara shut her eyes against the wave of grief threatening to drown her. She pressed her hands against her temples, fighting against the rising tide of sorrow. I want to be defined by loss. Yet, as if daring her, the shadows lunged toward her, reaching with long, claw-like fingers. They sought to pull her back, to drag her into their abyss. She could feel Marcus's hand tighten in hers, grounding her, yet both were teetering on the brink of despair. Focus on the light. He shouted above the chaos, his voice a lifeline. Remember why you're here. Clara inhaled deeply. The warmth of their memories flooded back, bubbling to the surface. Emily! She called out, her voice trembling but steady. Jason! I carry you with me. You are not lost to me. In a moment of clarity, she opened her eyes. The shadows paused, flickering as if recoiling from her defiance. The colors brightened, swirling into a phosphorescent shimmer around them, pushing against the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, the echoing voice shifted. "You think you can conquer us? You are still tied to your pain." "Not today," Clara whispered fiercely. She pulled Marcus closer, feeling a rush of light envelop them both, like being wrapped in a warm embrace. The shadows shrieked, their forms contorting as the light grew stronger. "You cannot escape your past." But Clara knew now she didn't have to. She could acknowledge her past and carry it forward. With newfound strength, she concentrated, channeling all her love and regret into a bright beacon. "I can honor you without losing myself." The shadows recoiled, the light pushing them back in bursts of color. Clara felt a shift, a personal transformation as she began to move forward. They surged together, racing through the vibrant surroundings, hand in hand, threading between rays of light, each step echoing with purpose. But just as she started to feel free, a crack splintered in the horizon, splitting the beauty in two. A dark rift formed, pulling at the edges of their reality. Clara gasped, fear surging in her chest. Was this another trap? Would the shadows reclaim her? "What is happening?" Marcus shouted, clutching her tightly. Clara felt the echoing voice return, softer yet insidious. "You only thought you escaped, the true test is yet to come." Panic clawed at her throat. Clara turned to Marcus, determination overtaking her fear. "We face whatever comes together. We have to." As the rift expanded, darkness spilling like ink into the bright world around them, Clara stood firm, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, knowing that shadows could not consume her light. But would they survive the journey through this new darkness? What would they find waiting on the other side of the rift? The rift pulsed with a malevolent energy, its depths consuming the bright colors around them. Clara's heart raced as darkness intertwined with her hopes, smothering the light she had fought so hard to claim. Shadows clawed at the edges of her vision, whispering promises of despair, slick and oily like smoke. She steadied herself, breathing deep, the trembling in her hands returning as if to mock her. "Clara, we need to," Marcus began, but the words were swallowed by an emerging howl. It sounded almost human, a cry that echoed down the rift and vibrated through Clara's bones. She felt it settle like a weight in her chest, a tangible reminder of everything she feared. Would they be tossed into the abyss, lost forever in the mourning of her past? "We cannot back down," she said, forcing the words out despite the knot of terror twisting in her stomach. Clara gripped Marcus's hand tighter, grounding all her courage in that connection. "We've come too far." Gathering strength from each shared memory, she summoned the warmth of laughter and joy, weaving it into a tapestry of hope. But the light was dimming, flickering like a candle caught in a storm. The shadows reached out to consume them, and she felt a shiver run down her spine, as if they were daring her to run, to hide. "Face it!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I won't let you take me." The rift trembled as she stood her ground. The darkness slithered, a sentient force that seemed to mock her bravery. "You think your resolve can shield you?" it hissed. "The suffering of loss will always come knocking." As if summoned, her worst memories surged forward, times of laughter that twisted into heartbreak, faces of lost loved ones morphing into distorted caricatures of grief. These were not mere shadows. They were echoes of her past, faceless figures that strained to pull her back into despair. "Hold on!" Marcus shouted, his eyes fierce with determination. Somehow, the light seemed to brighten at his side, merging with Clara's own energies. "Remember who you are." His words ignited a flame within her, the spark of self-acceptance igniting fire in her spirit. Fighting against the very grip of sorrow, she closed her eyes, centering herself. "I am Clara," she declared. "I carry love within me. I will not be defined solely by loss." The colors around them roared to life. They exploded into a brilliant cascade, pushing back against the shadows that sought to engulf them. But the rift's darkness lunged forward ferociously, throwing waves of icy dread that chilled Clara's bones. With each passing second, the uncertainty of what lay beyond the rift surged through her veins. What would they find on the other side? Would the price of battling these shadows be yet another loss? Clara, now! Marcus cried out as more shadows closed in, their claws grasping desperately, threatening to tear their grip apart. In that moment, she felt an emptiness tug at her heart. What if this was a battle they couldn't win? What if hope was just a cruel joke? With her heart pounding, Clara fought the despair threatening to overtake her, battling both the voices in her head and the phantoms around her. Just as the rift opened wide enough to reveal a horrific abyss within, Clara leaped forward, pulling Marcus with her. In that instant, shadows swallowed them whole. The world disappeared, and they fell into a swirling maelstrom of colors, memories, and echoes. But right before they plunged into the darkness, a chilling voice sliced through the chaos. You think you know pain? Welcome to your true reckoning. What awaited them in that void? Could they outrun their past, or was this the beginning of an even darker chapter? The void enveloped them, a cacophony of whispers rushing through Clara's ears. They were lost, suffocating in shadows, but she clung to Marcus's hand, feeling his strength anchoring her. The world around them pulsed with memories, snippets of laughter, fights, love, regret, all meshing into a swirling vortex of anguish and hope. The ground shifted, transforming beneath them as if reality itself was reassembling. Suddenly, it stopped, and they landed with a thud on cold stone. Clara blinked at the gray surroundings, unfamiliar, yet eerily reminiscent of the mansion. Shadows pooled in the corners of the room, their forms sputtering with energy, alive and eager. They twisted into shapes that formed faces, the silhouettes of those they had lost. Clara stepped back, her heart racing. No! I want to be consumed by you! Her voice quavered, yet she felt emboldened by the warmth of Marcus's presence beside her. Marcus shifted, brimming with urgency. We need to confront this, Clara. Name your fears, face what haunts you. Emily! Jason! Clara shouted, her voice strong, filled with a fierce determination. I loved you, but I won't let grief consume me. The shadows recoiled, flickering as if stung. They were tangible, alive, and Clara could feel their icy breath licking at her skin, sending chills cascading down her spine. A howling echo erupted around them. Your words mean nothing. The shadows hissed, swirling faster. You can't escape your pain. It's part of you. Clara shook her head furiously. No! You don't define what I am. I carry your memories, but I live beyond my losses. The darkness contracted, coiling in on itself, hesitating as if unsure how to proceed. Clara felt Marcus's hand squeeze hers tighter, an unspoken pact that together, united, they could shatter this malevolence. Remember, Clara! He yelled, his voice strong, cutting through the cacophony of despair. Your memories should empower, not entrap. The shadows wailed in fury, lashing out, reaching for them with clawing fingers. But Clara gathered her breath, painting vibrant images in her mind, the warm embrace of friends, thrilling laughter under a summer sky, moments that had enriched her soul despite the pain. I embrace what I've lost. She cried out, channeling that power, letting the warmth of those memories fuel her fury. The atmosphere lit up, a spark igniting within her that pushed against the shadows' cold grasp. Their forms twisted and writhed, flickering in fear as the light grew. You can't! They chanted, voices rising into a horrified screech. Yes! I can! She screamed back, her heart pounding against her chest like a war drum. Survive! Love! Remember! Suddenly, a light burst forth from Clara's chest, flooding the space with brilliance, driving the shadows back, forward, until they were torn apart, scattering into vapor. The faces of Emily and Jason flickered in the tempest, their eyes brightening with pride, reverberating Clara's truth. Let go! They whispered, their voices a beautiful harmony resonating with Clara's soul. With Marcus at her side, Clara stepped closer to the fading forms, determination swelling within her. Her voice rang clear through the dim air, firm against the creeping shadows. You may linger in my past, but you will not haunt my future. I choose life. I choose joy. As the last echoes of the shadows faded, Clara felt a rush of warmth envelop her, the weight of despair lifting, replaced by an energy that buzzed with infinite potential. The stone room brightened, dissolving into light, reshaping into a lush field blooming with colors unlike any she had ever seen. Panting, she felt the grass beneath her feet, soft and alive as the warmth of sunlight kissed her skin. Everything had changed, she could feel it. "Where are we?" she asked breathlessly, scanning the horizon that glimmered with hope. "Somewhere new," Marcus said, wonder lacing his voice. "Somewhere to create new memories." Clara looked at him, their hands still clasped tightly. In that moment, the shadows were mere remnants of what had been part of the story but not in control. The memories would remain, cherished and respected, but they would not dictate her truth. Hope churned within her, a force to propel her forward. As they took their first steps into the future, Clara whispered to the breeze, "I will remember, but I will also live." And just like that, they walked into the sunlight, ready to write new chapters of joy, love, and purpose, their hearts unshackled from the burden of the past. Shadows lingered in the corners of their minds, but finally, they were free. Don't let this moment slip away. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you won't miss any exclusive stories coming your way. Smash the like button now and feed the algorithm so we can keep bringing you amazing content. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and reactions to this ending. Don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is everything.